Alrighty, welcome to another video. Today I'll be doing a guide on the plasma gun for the veteran class. Alrighty, let's get straight into it. Let's start with the dump stats. 68% thermal resistance, 72% charge rate. If you can't farm a perfect one, that's fine, but the minimum thermal resistance you need is 68%. The reason for this is you get 8 shots in a salvo. So I'll take everything off, I've got 68% thermal resistance. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I'm a single point below 68%, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it won't let me do the last shot. You gotta remember there's decimals on the back end, and because of the rounding, 68% thermal resistance won't let you do the 8th shot in a full salvo. So 68%, 69, 70, whatever you can get, as long as you're hitting a minimum of 68% thermal resistance. You want the rest into charge rate. It does affect your left clicks ever so slightly. You want as much stopping power as possible, you want as much damage as possible, and you want as much ammo as possible. Very simple. I hope that demonstrated why you want this as your ideal stats. There's no true dump stat on the plasma gun because you want charge rate more than you want thermal resistance, but you want 8 shots more than you want 80% charge rate. Now onto your perks. This is going to be designed for Havoc 40 in mind, but it will translate to Auric and below. What's going to happen is if something is optimized for Havoc 40, there's going to be overkill in Auric. But I think overkilling in Auric and future-proofing your build for Havoc 40 is a smarter way to go about it, as you slowly build up your personal skills with dodging, blocking, learning the terrain, the maps, all that good stuff. Going into the perks though, I'm not someone who thinks you should go carapace on the plasma gun. There are certain ways you can build it so it can do decent damage into carapace, but I'm someone who thinks the veteran already has better ways to deal with carapace, such as uncanny shredders, such as crack grenades, such as power sword, knife, dueling sword. They all deal with carapace better than the plasma gun. While I'm on the topic of carapace right now, I also want to clear up a misconception that I see online all the time still, is that the plasma gun can cleave carapace and bulwark shields. No, it cannot. Let me show you. Now I'm going to chuck on carapace damage, I'm going to put on blaze away and rising heat to give me as much strength as possible, as much cleave as possible. I'll give you the best case scenario just to demonstrate it indeed does not work. On top of that, in the talent tree, I'll even take withering fire for the extra ranged cleave. Now I'm going to stack my plasma gun up to 80% and then I'll shoot a final shot just to hit both brushes right here. There was absolutely zero cleave through that carapace. I'll demonstrate the exact same thing with this bulwark shield. So much like the shotguns when they take Manstopper and they get infinite cleave, that infinite cleave does not work against carapace. People think the plasma has true cleave. This is just something I made up right now, but hopefully it sticks. True cleave is when something goes through carapace. To give you an idea, I've got a power sword with Sunder and power cycler. Notice how I cleave through the carapace? This is true cleave. Then you have things like the shredder grenade, the bolt pistol explosions, the crack grenade, they have true infinite cleave. Same with the Pagada Star, for example. I hope you understand the different layers and tiers to this now, and this is a big reason why I've said Grenade Veteran is stronger than Plasma Veteran. So I hope that demonstrates why I typically don't build my plasma gun to deal with carapace, just because the Veteran already has better options to deal with it. I really want my plasma gun to be able to deal with range specialists and elites, so depending on the nuances of your build, I'm not saying that this is going to be correct every time, but what you ideally want to be looking for is flak, unyielding, unarmored, or elite damage. For example, flak and elite damage will allow you to hit the 1 and 2 shot breakpoints with a focused target build on all your shotgunners, all your gunners, all your reapers, snipers, flamers, bombers. But let's say you go a little bit more melee focused, you may need to change elite damage back to unarmored damage to secure the 1-shot breakpoints against scab gunners, but that means you now probably have a 3-shot breakpoint into the reapers without the elite damage. So depending on your exact build, I'm not going to go into what's perfect in this specific build, because this is about giving you more knowledge. When I do my build videos, that's when it will be optimized for what specifically works for the nuances of that build. But as a catch-22, I recommend flak, unarmored, unyielding, or elite damage. Play around with it, see what works with your build the best, and generalizes the best breakpoints across the most variety of enemies, with the priority being to range specialists and elites. Alright, moving on to the blessings. Let's start with optimized cooling. I actually think this is a really underrated blessing for the plasma gun, especially if you prefer the blaze away loadout. Like, if you don't need heat to hit your 1 and 2 shot consistent breakpoints, you can really optimize your plasma gun for when you want to shoot into a hallway. Make sure to clear all the carapace first, shoot it into your groaners, shotgunners, gunners, reapers, rages, specials, all that type of stuff, but make sure you clear the carapace so you're actually getting your cleave. Now, I rate optimized cooling because despite what it says on the tooltip, increased charge speed, scaling inversely with heat level, when I read this, all I see is, okay, I get faster charge speed, but it allows you to shoot more bullets in your salvo up to a maximum of 11 now. So I'm going to show you again, 8 shots without optimized cooling. And now with optimized cooling. Alright, now moving on to Gets Hot. This is a very strong blessing, pretty much one of your best. You'll see it very often. Critical strike chance scales by your current heat level up to 10%. Also increases critical range attacks damage by 10%. That reads like shit. Personally, that was a bit of a tongue twister. The part that it doesn't tell you is that it stacks 5 times for up to 50% crit and up to 50% critical strike damage. Again, you'll typically combine this with Blaze Away or more commonly Rising Heat. However, optimized cooling is still a good option if you're hitting those 1 and 2 shot breakpoints. I don't rate Shattering Impact that highly, but there's some cute little nuanced builds that can get 2 to 3 shots against Havoc 40 Crushers. The only problem with this is it doesn't apply on the explosion, so let me show you just quickly. So when you cleave non-carapace enemies, you'll actually apply the brittleness to everything you cleave through. That's pretty good, but you typically don't need or want the brittleness into non-carapace enemies. Now against carapace you have the same issue, only the initial target is going to take the 10% brittle. The explosion caused by the plasma does not apply an AoE brittleness. Now again, for crushers specifically, you can do like a carapace and elite perk plasma gun, take Shattering Impact with Rising Heat or Blaze Away, Gets Hot, all that good stuff, and it can be used to kill carapace, but again, I don't think that's optimal. This is a pretty mid-tier blessing. There's some nuanced builds where it's alright, but overall, it's not going to be one of the better blessings. Focus cooling, it's alright. It does have synergy with optimized cooling. So for example, I'll show you what that looks like now. You will notice it allowed 1 extra shot on the critical strike on the next shot. I don't think it's high value. Like, obviously you got to crit more to get more value from it, but when optimized cooling from the rip gain 3 more shots in a salvo, I think that's already just a better blessing as it is. And you don't need to always crit to hit certain breakpoints on the plasma gun. It's not reliant on crits just because it hits so hard already. Glory Hunter's never bad. Bonus points if you're doing a Born Leader build. I wouldn't say it's needed, but it's not a bad blessing. Rising Heat, pretty self-explanatory, up to 20% strength, scaling with heat level. If you're maintaining 80% heat on your plasma gun constantly, shooting, charging, Rising Heat's pretty good, but because of the Havoc 40 breakpoints, I do typically think now Blaze Away is typically just better. Yeah, you'll just have to accept your first 1 or 2 shots may not hit the 1-shot breakpoint, but I would rather have that extra damage after that point to deal with enemies when they get contaminated stims or rotten armor or rampaging enemies. There's just more damage reduction, so I want more access to damage. I still think Rising Heat's very solid, especially if you're focusing on the gunners, stalkers, reapers, bombers, that type of stuff. Rising Heat's all you need, but I like the potential of Blaze Away. It's right next to it, so let's talk about Blaze Away. 8% strength for every shot fired, stacks up to 5 times for up to 40% strength, giving double Rising Heat. It's basically on par with Rising Heat after your second shot, and from your third shot onwards, you're doing 24% strength. You can combine Blaze Away with things like Rising Heat if you just want to go raw strength, raw cleave. You can combine it with Gets Hot, which is typically the most common. Another way I like running it is with Optimized Cooling, meaning we get 3 extra shots at basically plus 80%, meaning if you crit, you can really start getting those one-shot Reapers quite consistently. Power Blast, between 5 to 25% crit chance based on charge level when firing. I think this is just a weaker version of Gets Hot personally. Volatile is pretty low tier. Again, Optimized Cooling just overshadows Focus Cooling and Volatile. It doesn't allow you to shoot more shots in a salvo, it just allows you to shoot your full salvo like 15 to 20% faster, relative to how it normally shoots. Now, Volatile will let you shoot faster relative to Optimized Cooling, because despite what Optimized Cooling said, it just allows you to shoot more shots in a salvo. It doesn't actually increase your charge speed, but I think the weapon already shoots fast enough. That covers all the blessings. Just to give one more rundown, Optimized Cooling, Gets Hot, Rising Heat, Blaze Away are going to be your best in slot. Shattering Impact and Glory Hunter are usable, but require a bit more nuance with your build to get optimal value from them. Focused Cooling, Volatile, and Power Blast I think are quite low value, and honestly just stay away from. There's better options. Alright, I've got about 20 to 25 Dreg Flamers here. I've got the 50% range cleave talent active, but I don't have any blessings on. I just want to show you the difference between a left click and a right click when it comes to cleave. As you can see, the left click will go through about 10 of them. And same thing, I've got another 25 here. As you can see, there's far more potency. You're getting about double the cleave with your power shots. I do think they're useful when you're shooting down a hallway or a corridor, a long tunnel, after you've cleared the carapace. Much like the shotguns, that's how you get the max efficiency from your plasma gun. And last but not least, to finalize this video, when it comes to sniping, straggler, gunners and shotgunners and specials, you're going to be using your left click for 80% of the time. And for the other 20% of the time, only and only when there's a corridor, a hallway, a thin piece of terrain where you can funnel all enemies and there is no carapace, that's when you want to use the right click or the increased cleave to maximize your damage potential. That's going to do it for this video. That's my guide to the plasma gun. I hope I cleared up any misconceptions and you learned a thing or two. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to help a brother out in the algorithm. It helps me out a lot. And let me know what weapon you want to see next. Catch you in the next video. God bless. 07.